Almost 500,000 players are building Lee Sin wrong. Sundered Sky is statistically the most popular first item on Lee Sin, and as the rank 1 Lee Sin NA, I'll be explaining why Sundered Sky as a first item is not good for Lee Sin, despite everyone in the world rushing it first. The background gameplay is me rushing Sundered Sky since people think I haven't tested it for some reason. Notice how many kills I get before Sundered Sky is even completed. I'll break this down into 3 areas. First of all, why is Sundered Sky bad as a first item on Lee Sin? Second of all, what is the best first item on Lee Sin? And third, what are other items that are bad or good on Lee Sin and why? I made the ultimate Lee Sin guide at the start of season 14, but it covered a lot more than just builds. I showed my Lee Sin build there, but only went over it briefly, so to sum it up again, this is the best Lee Sin build. You go Eclipse, into Black Cleaver, into Maw, into Death Stance. This entire video will be going in depth on itemization and why you should start building Lee Sin like this if you actually want to win your solo queue games. Let's start off with the obvious. Why is Sundered Sky a bad first item on Lee Sin? Lee Sin's most popular first item is statistically Sundered Sky, and it's insane how far ahead it is compared to any other item. It has a decent win rate, but Eclipse fits Lee Sin's playstyle much more as a first item in solo queue. The problem is, Sundered Sky is a good item, just not a good first item on Lee Sin. I could see a better argument to go Sundered Sky as a second or third item, but going it first is just objectively wrong and is the largest reason Lee Sin's win rate isn't higher in solo queue. Everyone feels conditioned to purchase the new flashy items as soon as they can, and since Sundered Sky is new and Eclipse is old, everyone wants to believe Sundered Sky must be better. But what people fail to realize is that in solo queue specifically, there's a lot more fighting in the early game and Lee Sin loves to fight early. Solo queue is full of free kills in the early game, which is also when Lee Sin is strongest, and by rushing Sundered Sky, you are literally throwing away your potential to snowball your early game and carry. Lee Sin is very strong early, and you want to make sure you get a lead because of how useless he is from behind. Lee Sin can also deal a lot of damage at level 6, which can catch a lot of people off guard. Professional games of League are not even remotely similar to solo queue at all. So when people build Lee Sin Bruiser, they are mostly playing to be a beefy frontliner with a good early game. They aren't playing to be a carry because junglers in competitive play for their laners instead. Just think about how many times you've lost a game because you get your laners ahead and they just completely throw their lead away or just do nothing with it at all. But obviously in solo queue, you should only trust in yourself and your own ability to climb. When you go Eclipse, you're allowing yourself more control of the early game and it gives you way more opportunities to carry your team. Rushing Sundered Sky is infinitely less damage, especially in the early game where most people won't have a single item yet. Eclipse is 70 AD and a burst of damage thanks to its passive, while also having a decent bit of ability haste, and it's cheaper than Sundered Sky, costing 300 gold less while giving 15 more AD. Comparing just the passives alone, Eclipse has perfect synergy with Lee Sin as it procs the passive in just one Lee Sin Q. So by using Lee Sin Q1 into Q2, you'll be bursting them for a good chunk of their health while also having a shield that immediately applies to absorb the damage you might take from enemies after taking your Q. Sundered Sky passive is pretty useless early as you can only get the heal once every 7 seconds and the heal and damage it provides is just for that one auto. Eclipse gives you higher overall damage for all abilities and attacks, which allows you to stat check most junglers and even laners too. Not to mention, the build path is much better on Eclipse. If there are no early kills, you can instantly buy pickaxe on your first base after a full clear, but if a fight happens and you happen to pick up an early kill, you can opt for a Warhammer instead. As for Sundered Sky, yes, the Warhammer base is nice, but sitting on Tunneler feels really bad on top of the fact that you really don't need that much health in solo queue early on as Lee Sin. Lee would much rather have the AD from pickaxe or Warhammer, and it's also really nice that Eclipse is 300 gold cheaper. Even if you magically got Giga fed and rushed Sundered Sky since you had extra gold, you'd just be shooting yourself in the foot by not snowballing your lead with more raw AD. Rushing Sundered Sky as a first item is basically vegan Lee Sin since you'll be way less likely to get more kills and less likely to carry your games overall. As I mentioned earlier, Sundered Sky works best as a second or third item, but even then, Sundered Sky isn't always the best second item either. Black Cleaver second is an extremely essential spike for Lee Sin that not only helps you deal more damage, but also allows your team to deal more damage. It shreds armor on enemies, which benefits your whole team, not just yourself. Remember that even if a champion doesn't build bonus armor, every champion gets free armor and HP just by leveling up. Black Cleaver second ensures that you have the highest DPS possible, and Black Cleaver only increases in value the later the game goes on. The most ideal spot for Sundered Sky looks best as a third item on Lee Sin, but even this comes with a few caveats. Maw is an essential item for Lee Sin because it's another insanely cheap, high AD item which Lee Sin greatly benefits from. In a burst heavy meta filled with strong AP champions and new AP items, Maw is a must-have item on Lee Sin. So even if the best slot for Sundered Sky is third, Maw third would still be more important if they have any AP champ at all. The only scenario where Sundered Sky fits into this build build would come as a third item as long as the enemy has literally no AP champs. If the enemy team is full AD, you would replace Maul for Sundered Sky, which is most likely the only way you can fit Sundered Sky into this build. As for other items like Spear Shojin, it's honestly just worse than Sundered Sky. There's almost never a reason to buy it on Lee Sin over the other items. I don't think Shojin is ever a good item at all in Lee Sin's build path. Lee Sin's cooldowns are already very low with his Q being barely over 3 seconds at max rank, as well as all his other abilities, which makes the first passive irrelevant. The second passive is also a fake stat for Lee Sin because it only increases damage on your abilities, not your autos. Despite increasing your spell damage up to 12%, you have to remember that the only two skills that this will be used on is your Q and E, and Q is a single target as well as your R. Shojin would be much better on champions like Hecarim or Red Kayn that have AoE abilities with high damage that can be spammed. So what's the full build? You're probably gonna always build Eclipse first, this one is non-negotiable, and then Black Cleaver second. You would only ever consider Sundered Sky second if you are insanely fed like 5-0 to help stat check enemies harder since you will likely have a level advantage. If you are anything but Giga fed off one item, you should always build Black Cleaver second. As for a third item, I can see Sundered Sky being built most commonly, but I still personally prefer Maw even if they only have one AP champ. Maw gives a ton of AD, 65 to be exact, for 2800 gold on top of the magic resist and the lifesteal you'll be getting from the passive when it pops. The passive synergizes really well with Lee Sin's W, so Maw is a very strong low cost item to have on Lee Sin. Especially in an AP burst heavy meta, one AP champion is definitely worth justifying a Maw purchase. Now the fourth item on Lee should always be Death Stance. Most people think Death Stance is a bad item, and it is to a certain extent, but on Lee Sin it's very broken since just your W shield can block a lot if not all of Death Stance bleed damage. This makes it so that you never actually feel the negative effects of Death Stance, and even if you do, you still have lifesteal built into the second part of Lee Sin's W to allow you to easily restore any health Death Stance may have lost you. By the time you get Death Stance, you'll have around a 2-second cooldown on your W for its shield if you're casting it upon yourself while fighting. As for the final item, you can always put Sundered Sky here if you didn't build Sundered Sky initially. If you built Sundered Sky third because they're full AD, then I'd always go Sterix Gauge last. Also remember to not buy any components for your last item and to stack control wards and buy elixirs until you actually have the full item. The reason why I say get a red elixir and 2 control wards is because it's just better than any component you'll get. Let's say you're building Sundered Sky last, it's 1100 gold for 25 AD and 10 ability hates for a Warhammer. Whereas elixir will give you 30 AD and heal you for 12% of the physical damage dealt. Also, if you have 2 control wards in your inventory, it'll make it so you have a lot more playmaking potential in the late game. The best boots are always going to be Ionian. As I stated in my previous Lee Sin guide, you're going to want that extra CDR early to really snowball your games and up your carry potential. Even if they are full AD or full AP, I would not recommend either Mercs or Ninja Tabi if your goal is to carry a game. The only other time I'd go a separate boot is if the enemy team has a lot of CC, and I mean a lot. Not to mention, Ionian is very nice for the lower flash CD, which Lee Sin will benefit from greatly. If you're gonna go Sundered Sky second, you should always go Ingenious Hunter instead of Relentless. Ingenious Hunter synergizes very well with the Eclipse passive, the Sundered Sky passive, and also your Trinket, which Lee Sin obviously uses very often. As for the new runes introduced in 14.2, I take Attack Speed Shard on the first roll, Adaptive on the second, and Base Health on the third. I don't think the new Tenacity rune is worth the HP trade-off you'll lose early on, especially since Lee Sin's first clear isn't the healthiest and you'll need the extra health early on for skirmishes. I think there could be an argument made for the Movement Speed Shard, but losing AD on your first initial clear in early skirmishes would suck a lot, so as for now, I personally prefer the Adaptive Shard. Thanks for watching, and if you have any more questions, I'll answer everything in the comment section below or live on Twitch as I stream Challenger solo queue almost every day and regularly answer questions in chat.